Hi friends! This is DaintyTank. Thank you for joining me. Welcome back to Fatal 12. This is part 24 in this series, and oh my god, things just happened. You finally got eliminated. Finally! Oh my god, Rinka, you should have eliminated him earlier. Ugh. Ah. Anyways, that's my thoughts. So we're gonna load and go from here. Comparing answers. Boop, 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 boop. The fog in my consciousness gradually begins to dissipate. And you're in your bed, which is a good sign that things have returned to your normal life. I sense someone nearby. Huh! Huh! A decision! A decision! Right away! Woo-hoo! Naomi? Like, as much as ideally we'd want to make sure that Naomi's back, like, if someone is nearby and she's waking up in bed, it's probably not Naomi. On top of that, there's a good chance that it's not entirely going to be undone. That's a possibility. Mao, we saw, had to basically scream her way in. Miharu, however, has ways, and we know this. So I'm guessing it's Miharu, and I'm gonna go Miharu. Miharu? I'd like to believe I heard right. I'd be incredibly happy if so. Oh, so gay! And I'm glad we were right. Whoa! Good morning, Rinka. Oh, that glove! Huh? Why are you here? First thing I see upon waking is Miharu. She's in her school uniform, all ready to go. That's a simple question. I'm the one who carried you back from the train. The press would have swarmed you if I took you to the hospital, especially once they figured out that you're a student at AHHH. I couldn't let you go through that. Figured the world would do its thing after a day had passed, so it wasn't all that bad. How did you know I was on the Yama note line? My little alliance with Scale and them proved to be useful. Still not sure if they're trustworthy or not, but Scale's intel has been spot on at least. She slips in an extra comment about how she should have made her way over quicker. Did you spend all night by my side? I did have to go home and fetch my things, but yes, I couldn't leave you alone in your state. That's a relief to hear. Thanks. That's my line. While I got to see you were okay in the Court of Fate, part of me was still worried you wouldn't wake again. I'm not sure what went on while I was unconscious, but it looks like she did what she could to help me out of trouble. Yeah, she kinda said, I'll put my life on the line for yours. She literally loves you. Oh my god, pay attention, please. Also, this is really cute. And here I was worrying about the possibility of my real body being taken to a hospital. Waking up in my own room helps me to settle down a bit. A bit sore all around, but other than that, seem to be fine. Thus, there's only one thing left for me to worry about. You must be wondering how things have changed. Yu's actions had a big influence on the world at large, but things right now are different from what took place. I didn't have the time to figure it all out, but I can tell you what I know so far. But you should get ready for school first. We've got plenty of time, but the explanation will take a while. Following her advice, I get ready and make my way downstairs. Should be easier to talk things out down there. Okay. As always, I make some coffee for the both of us. There's still an hour left before we have to leave. Guess I woke up early thanks to all that rest I got. It's been quite a while since we last got together like this. Ever since I lost the will to go on. And it was thanks to Mao coming over and the idea of you doing all you could that got me back on track. I can hardly blame you. Besides, I may have done all I could, but you were the one who accomplished what you set out to in the end. Naomi's death. That's gotta be what she's about to talk about. Miharu takes a deep breath before she starts. First and foremost, yesterday's incident. It's become a case of sudden combustion due to unknown circumstances, a lack of proper maintenance on the rail lines, and the deterioration over time, I guess. The case of Tokyo Tower has been completely undone, it seems. Who knows what happened to the memories of all those who watched Yu's stream. It's entirely possible that there will be cases like Naomi who still dream about the events that were undone. We're best off asking Mao. She's most likely to have watched the stream than not. Based on all that, we can surmise that while Yu's actions themselves disappeared, physical changes caused by them remain. I was worried about that. Just like with Kikyo. The letter she gave me is a prime example of that. What she had written disappeared after her elimination. The action of her writing a letter had been undone. I have a bad feeling about this. If changes to Naomi's body are classified as physical change, then... Don't tell me. Calm down, let me explain things in order. Going back a bit further, turns out the major players in Null's Japan branch were all arrested after reports of suspicious objects being found in Shibuya. That occurred after Yu's initial attack on the Yamanote line had been undone by divine selection. The organization itself was already reaching a breaking point. Then one of their operations failed and resulted in the disappearance of the perpetrator. That led to an insider leaking information and causing them all to get arrested. That's been undone too. Rather the timing itself had been changed. They were arrested right after Golden Week, which just so happens to coincide with the casualty juncture. All of this due to an insider leaking information out of fear of what the young member of theirs had done. So the attack itself actually happened. Yu's cause of death has become reality once more. That means he's already dead at this current point in time. His attack only resulted in a few injuries though. The only one to die during it was the boy himself, who I refer to as such because he hasn't been given the name of Yu at this point. Makes sense considering I'm alive. If my memory of the incident is right, though, other people died along with me, so something doesn't add up. The explosion took place in the middle of the packed train. The only way no casualties would emerge from that is through a miracle. Granted, you could probably call divine selection and its alterations to fate a type of miracle. That's likely due to you. Fate had to force its hand to keep you alive, I'd assume. So if I die, then... Sea of Flames pop into my mind once more. Her theory makes sense. All the same, that's not what I'm interested in right now. I'd made it to the point to settle things with fate. I want to know the results. So, what happened to the attack on Amitra? Hear myself gulp in anticipation. I have a bad feeling about it, but I also don't doubt myself. If I do, then... The attack on Amitra on the day of the cultural festival has been undone. However, the classroom being used as storage for the festival burst out in flames in exchange. Wait a minute, if something still happened then... Our breathing rode ragged, all of a sudden. It almost feels like my heart has completely stopped. Even though that happened, there were no casualties. Then... My pulse returns to normal when I hear that. Sudden fluctuation leaves me a bit lightheaded. Yeah, but she's about to get something worse. There was no casualties, then Naomi didn't lose her life. Which means she's alive. Naomi's alive! Naomi seems less than enthused, though. Doesn't take long to figure out why. The fire itself still happened, so it's entirely possible that she's been left badly burned or suffering from complications. The news didn't go into detail. Now, well, it's a bit pathetic of me, but I'm a touch scared to learn the truth. I didn't have it in me to call either Mao or Naomi, just in case something had happened. I wasn't even sure how to ask them before. I still don't know the results of your efforts. Oh, is that it? You don't need to worry about that, so long as she's alive. I'll make sure she's happy. You really are strong-willed, aren't you? Not at all. I never would have been able to do any of this without the help of others. I won't challenge that line of thinking, even if you've helped to confirm the fact that you're the one who deserves to live through all this. That's not quite the right way to put it. Miharu reacts by giving me a puzzled look. Decide to explain myself. I'm not the one who deserves to live. It's about who has the will to do so. Oh. So, I take it you're determined to live through this now? Yep. I've had no issue embracing that desire now. There's only one thing I've decided on besides that. It's a possibility that Sonia told us about, the one I'd forgotten thanks to everything that happened with Naomi. Let me say this out loud and clear, Miharu. Both of us are going to... Meow. I've heard, it was user f.b. Who mentioned and commented that the cat's name is based on a Greek goddess. I think Lethe? Better, yeah. Very pretty. Oh, come on, read the atmosphere! Just as I'm about to give Miharu a big determined speech, a listless voice interrupts. It's none other than Lethe, of course. Pretty unusual to see it walking around in the morning. It makes its way over to the table we're sitting at, before planting once more. Well, hello, I believe this is our first meeting. Huh? Is it really? I've heard you talk about your cat plenty, so it doesn't feel like the first time. Ah, there goes all my energy. That's enough for now. You should take this chance to settle down after all that you've gone through. But I must say... Something up with Lethe? Oh, the cat's name is Lethe? Right. Sounds awfully familiar for some reason. Perhaps I'm just taken by how unusual a name that is. Do you mind if I pet it? Huh? Thought you weren't good with animals. Well, I just don't like them. Even so, this cat's probably been supporting you all along. So, in that case, it only makes sense that I can show it some gratitude. She's so flirty, it's so cute. Miharu extends her hand towards Lethe. Nice and slow. You can tell she's not used to dealing with them. Come on, no need to worry. Yikes! It's not often that you get to hear Miharu shout in surprise. It was me grinning at first, but I come to regret that pretty quickly. Miharu! She falls off her chair before she can pet Lethe and crashes onto the floor. Are you okay? Sorry, I shouldn't have egged you on. What? No, it's not your fault. I got dizzy when I reached down and I ended up falling on my face. Help her back up into her chair. Her body's far more slender than I had imagined. It's also so soft. Okay. Oh my god. What in the world happened? Maybe your body's just instinctively trying to avoid animals. Come here, Lethe. Let me get you some food and water. Meow. Smell of the food seems to do the trick, so Lethe meanders off to the backyard. Sorry about that. I'm fine. Getting back on topic. Just the things is that we don't know how Naomi is until we see her. Right. You got up way earlier than me to check all that out, huh? I'm grateful. I'll be satisfied just knowing she's alive. Yeah. Seeing you smile like that satisfies me too. We should probably head to school soon too. We both make our way to school once I wash up the mugs we used. Oh yeah, what happened with school anyway? Hopefully Fate didn't make it so that we skipped the whole week. Oh, I forgot to mention that. It closed for a week after the fire incident, so not much different from the events we went through. Good to hear. Let's get going then. We've taken the clear blue sky while we walk towards Amicha. Ain't nothing more tiring than being back at school after a week off. Must have spent half that time sleeping. So you just did the same thing you always do. Gotta admit, I think they went a bit overboard closing it for a whole week. I was starting to get bored out of my skull. You two were toiling away when I wanted to do stuff too. Seems like the world has changed things up after all. Pivotal moment I shared with Mao has been undone. That was the first time I had ever seen her cry. But now, I'm the one who knows just how strong and compassionate she can be. Pretty sure Linehouse was closed all week, so I can only assume I lied to her about working. I guess I should check last week's bills and stuff when I get back. Oh crap, I need to get in touch with Garan as well. Chances are I haven't done so in a while. Can't help but smirk as I remember all this. Well, I guess Yurin's had it the roughest. Oh? Make sure to give a vague reaction. Mao follows up. She wasn't hurt or anything, but the press was all over her because she saw the whole thing happen firsthand. The school took initiative to keep them away from her, but that didn't stop them from trying to track her down every now and then. She wasn't hurt. A shame the festival ended after just one day, after she worked so hard for it. Can't fault their decision, but they could have postponed instead of outright canceling it. Oh, maybe you could hire Niran to work at Linehouse. Holy crap, I might be a genius. You are, Mao. You always are. Mao's words are going to be in one ear and out the other by this point. Mao isn't part of Divine Selection, so hearing her say Niran's fine has me over the moon. Rini? Oh, sorry, I kind of spaced out. Whatever. Good to see I ain't the only one still in holiday mode. We should probably grab food soon. Rinka! Oh my god, Naomi. Oh my god, Naomi. Oh my god, Naomi. My voice rings out just as Mao urges me toward the cafeteria. A voice that hits me like a ton of bricks. Almost feels like I've lost all the strength in my body. It didn't last long, however, as I find myself sprinting towards the source of the voice immediately. Oh, Naomi! Eep! What's wrong, Rinka? Thank goodness, I'm so good to see you. Everyone's staring, but I don't care. I hug her with everything I have. Fortunately, my face is buried in her clothes, and nobody can see the tears welling up in my eyes. I'll let it slide just this once. No way, Miharu's not foaming at the mouth. What's wrong? Did something happen? Sorry, just let me stay like this for a little bit longer. Yo, is this a confession? Mao is the worst at this. Don't be ridiculous. Oh well. Can't hurt to leave them be for now. Spend the next 5 minutes hugging her tight. Most of that time is spent waiting for my tears to recede. Those who don't understand the situation, Mao included, probably assume I've gone off the deep end. Rumors are going to spread fast. But I don't care. Thank you for being alive. Thank you. Saying that is just going to confuse her more, considering she doesn't remember what happened. Even so, I have to say it. Oh. Hello? Sorry for the wait. I happened to bump into Naomi outside. Miharu and Naomi come to Linehouse after school. After I looked into it, turns out I'd closed the store for a week due to my being ill. I made sure to tell my gran that I'd be open as usual starting tomorrow. Miharu and Naomi saunter over to our usual table. Once there, I sit down next to Miharu. The reason for them both being here is obvious. We're going to fill Naomi in on everything. Wasn't sure how much I should tell her at first, but I think it's best if we reveal everything. It's entirely possible that things could repeat themselves if I keep certain things from her. This is about divine selection, isn't it? There's no way I can keep this from her. Naomi seems to understand too. Yeah. How much do you remember? Well, I remember that we spent some time alone talking in the park the day before the cultural festival. Just the two of you then? Naomi gives Miharu a panicked look of apology before turning her attention back to me. Just, I'm sorry, don't kill me! On the nose. After that, After that, I remember getting caught up in the explosion after I followed you to the empty classroom. I don't remember anything between that and waking up in the hospital, though. I was told that I collapsed from some form of heat stroke, so that's about it. I figured I'd miraculously made it out alive, but something didn't add up. I feel like I spent my time reading books and such during the school's closure, and yet for some reason I can't remember doing so. I even wrote down the book titles I read in my notebook, but I can't recall what they were about. Most telling, however, is that I started to have nightmares in which you killed me. They were as realistic as the ones I had about you dying, Rinka. I'm not too sure if those were actual dreams I had or ones I just felt I had. You should be aware of the meaning behind that by now. Yes. I died, didn't I? You must have killed me on that day. His actions taken during divine selection were undone after his elimination, which includes when he killed me. I see. This is just a theory, but Naomi's memories seem to have been affected more than anyone else's. You've ended up with memories of what happened both before and after the world's events changed. There's not much left for us to say based on your understanding of the situation. The last thing we want is for you to remember something as painful as that. Thank you. I appreciate your concern. Also, I hate to ask this, but it was you who eliminated you, wasn't it? I can't believe you did so much for me. Don't bring that up. It's okay. I assure Miharu before I continue. Miharu's right. You don't need to apologize for any of it. I made the decision to elect him myself. It wasn't easy though. First I had to cooperate with other participants, and then they had me use a gun. What? How did things escalate to that point? Naomi stares in awe as I explain the sequence of events, how I worked together with Odette and Alan to prevent the attack on Tokyo Tower, how I witnessed yet another explosion on a train. I was talking for a while, long enough that we have to take a break in the middle of my story. Miharu probably knows the gist of the situation, but this is the first time I've talked to her about it properly. Needless to say, she seems almost as surprised as Naomi. Anyway, there's something I want to tell you both. Tell both of you. Whatever could it be? What is it? I've accepted my desire to live. Not only have I learned and felt a lot throughout divine selection, but I'm also carrying the feelings of others with me. I don't want any of that to go to waste. You finally found the resolution to do what you need to then. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not about to sacrifice you for that cause. There's no meaning to my life without people like you. Naomi, Mao, and my grand. Even Lepe. Sonia said that if fate can change for the worse, they can also change for the better. I'm done with being a goody two-shoes. I'm going to change fate so that it suits my needs and not the other way around. I have no idea how I'm going to accomplish that, but at the very least, I was able to save Naomi so far. That's why I'm going to find a way to make sure both of us last through this. I'm well aware that I have no leads whatsoever when it comes to how I'll accomplish this. Still, I want my intentions to be clear. This is the first step towards realizing that desire. Sorry, but I disagree. You realize how slim the odds are of being able to accomplish such a thing, don't you? I figured you'd say that. Should some method exist, then However, your plan requires us two to be the last remaining participants. I figured you'd say that too. That's why I'll make sure to find a way before it comes to that. I feel entirely out of place with this discussion. As you should. This is literally just a, I want you too, but you know how slim this is, conversation between two lovers. Two lovers separated by each other. War divides their people. Sorry. Avatar humor. Anyways. That's not true at all. I asked you to help me once the cultural festival had ended, didn't I? This is my proposal. Let's work together, the three of us, not against the other participants, but against our own fate. I am finally able to say it. Perhaps I've wanted to say this ever since divine selection began. It wasn't possible before. I lacked the resolution required to do so. But things are different now. I finally accepted my desire to live. Oh, well then, assuming there is a way to pull this off, you can count me in. Likewise, I've been waiting for this. Thanks, you two. Both of them smile at me and I smile back. I'll have to take my leave here, I'm afraid. Work calls. That said, Miharu makes her way out. Let's not keep things from one another, Miharu. You're not going to work. You're going to meet with Scale and them, aren't you? I follow after Miharu when she exits the flying house. I ask Naomi to stay inside before running off, though. I want to speak with Miharu alone. Yes, that's right. My priority is to eliminate Odette and Alan with their help. But I'm also going to get as much info as I can on them at the same time so I can eliminate them afterwards. The act of betraying others is inherently evil, but it's imperative. I certainly hope you're not going to chide me for it. I won't, but do you really think you'll be able to pull it off? Maybe we'll do anything for your sake. You know that's not what I meant. Miharu stares at me in response to my outburst. Sorry, I shouldn't have raised my voice. Please hear me out. I'm not against what you're doing. Quite the opposite, really. I don't want to let you do this all on your own anymore. I want you to let me shoulder your burden, much like Naomi did for me. So, it's about Naomi again. Huh? Huh? I didn't mean it to come across that way. Oh well. I appreciate your concern, but I'll leave it at that. As I said earlier, your plan hinges on us being the last remaining participants. You won't understand unless I say it loud and clear, so listen. You focus on finding what to do once we reach that point. Leave the other participants to me. You've gotten a bit too used to throwing yourself into dangerous situations, especially this last time. The fire may not have hurt you in the end, thanks to fate doing its thing, but don't forget that internal damage from smoke inhalation and such could have been a possibility. Facts. I've said this plenty of times already, but you're getting far too involved with other participants. That's why I was glad to hear you said you would stand up to fate itself. Don't tell me you only agreed to my plan to keep me away from the other participants. Don't you believe that we can beat fate at its own game? Who knows? Anyway, I need to hurry. I do actually have a shift today, albeit it is a short one. I believe what I said. that we can change fate together. And I believe in you. It just turns out that my love for you trumps that belief. Saying that, Miharu makes her way to the station. I love you more than fate itself. Do you get it? There was nothing I could say to her after that. I had no comeback. It's the fact that I lack information on both the other participants and how to ensure our mutual survival. Facts, but she also just told you, again, I love you. Rinka, the Oblivious Lesbian trademark. And all I'm doing right now is speaking of a scenario I want to see happen. That's why Miharu brushed me off. Now she'll only fill me in on the bare minimum like she did previously, at least. Either way, I intend to do things differently as well. I'll find out how to change fate for us, no matter what. Miharu was already determined to make nothing but progress. She's been ever since divine selection began. Same has to apply to me now. Don't want her lying for my sake anymore. Fair? I want to know her cause of death. Did things go well? They went how you were probably worried they would. Our response leaves her a bit surprised. I'm aware of how smart Naomi is. There's no doubt she realized that we were arguing over. Are you sure about that, or she was probably thinking it was her? That's a possibility too. Aha! It's even more reason for me to find a way for us both to survive. It's not like I don't have any leads. Take this book, for example. I never paid much attention to it, thinking it was just a tool for divine selection, but it might be worth having a deeper look at its design and binding. That sort of stuff. What would we gain from doing so? Information regarding divine selection? Rather, the goddess behind it. We've been so focused on the dream world and the events in the real world being altered that we simply accepted everything about it. We never once tried to go against the rules because we let ourselves be convinced that we shouldn't. In reality, though, we should have let ourselves question the very nature of divine selection. I guess we should research Parsa, too? Not too familiar with the ancient myths and stuff, and there might be something about her. I should be able to help with that. Actually did some research myself based on her claim of being a goddess. Figured I might be able to find something useful. I walked away convinced that myths are just myths in the end, but we might find something that will come in handy now. Naomi whips out her notebook and flips to the first few pages. She must have written stuff down while researching. After reading through them a bit, she turns her attention back to me. Parsa is a generic term used for the fates in Roman mythology. There were 3 in total: Desuma, Noma, and Morta. Each exists as an equivalent of the Moirai from Greek mythology. Apparently, they decide the individual fates of each person at their birth. That's close to what Parsa said in the dream world. What's more, both of the court and the clock of fate are there. Dream world itself is filled with clock and gear motifs. The numbers given to each participant coincide with those of an analog clock, too. Time. Greek mythology's Kronos is most well known when it comes to deities related to that, I believe. Parsa said that our 3 cards represent our past, present, and future. Does that mean fate is represented through time itself? That reminds me. The card book has gears in its design, doesn't it? A number of gears within a clock, yes? In that case, it's possible to make the connection from gears to clocks, from clocks to time, finally time to fate, right? You can even see expressions like the Wheel of Fate in books sometimes. Well, that only helps us understand the motive behind the dream world. Doesn't really feel like we've gotten near the core of the matter. Hang on. Don't you think it's a bit odd for the dream world to have a motive at all? How so? Did you think of something? Not quite, but Parsa claims to be a goddess, correct? Why would she design something to comply with motives that regular humans would think of? She explained that the dream world was designed in order for us to be able to perceive it, because we can't under normal circumstances. that's the case, then it only makes sense that it'd be full of stuff that we'd normally associate with fate and the like. We just made the connections, and they're themselves. Plus one personal perception plays a vital role in the context of our own cards. That makes sense, but sorry, something just feels off, despite you making a good point. No need to apologize. Don't forget that feeling. Us participants didn't question any of this stuff. Naomi nods, but still looks somewhat apologetic. I can't quite understand what she must be feeling, in all honesty. Chances are part of me is still convinced there's no point in overthinking things because Parsa is a goddess. Here I was telling myself I'd quit that sort of thinking not long ago. I don't prove to be useful after all. Don't say that, it's not true. I should have figured something was up far sooner. Yet Naomi here is the one to go ahead and do research before I even noticed. I guess we should wrap things up for today. Want to come with me to the library after school tomorrow? The library? I'd love to! My favorite spot! Thanks. We'll start with the card book first. It's already dark out, so I walk Naomi to the station. She said she'd be fine, but Odette knows all about Lionhouse. Which means Alan probably knows too. I can see them focusing their efforts on me at this point, but even so, I'd rather not let Naomi walk around at night on her own. That's fair. Meanwhile, how many times must I repeat myself? Stop calling a regular high school student out to a shady place like this, especially when they're on their way home from work. I'm exhausted. Keep it brief. Ha, work, huh? You should quit that crazy joint. Looks like there are plenty of night jobs around here that pay better, too. She's not doing it for the money, Federico. It's the atmosphere that keeps you there, isn't it? It's the atmosphere that makes me want to quit, actually. Miharu finds herself at Milk Crown once more. Scale and Federico are perched on their usual seats. Naturally, Odette is nowhere to be seen. Might I ask where Odette is? Miharu heard the details from Rinka, but opts to play the fool. It's the first gathering since Odette had told them to leave the heavy lifting to her. Miharu finds herself curious about the other two parties' exchanges between then and today. Surely you're keen enough to realize she defected. What's more, she took the information I provided and used it to eliminate you. All while cooperating with your friend, too. She probably worked together with Alan. What makes you say that? Just a hunch. Rinka couldn't fight her way out of paper bag, could she? Comment doesn't sit well with Miharu, but she let Federico continue. The news was talking about some dude that got shot but disappeared. Alan's the only one who could have pulled that off. Good point. That leaves us with the issue of whether or not Odette and Alan are still working together. Rinka may be as well, but we probably don't need to worry about her. Could swing either way, really. Odette had nothing but praise for this information network. Well, that makes their elimination our top priority. Scale, Federico, and Miharu versus Rinka, Odette, and Alan. That's the situation these two are imagining, but Miharu knows this isn't the case. There are 3 teams, not 2. Scale and Federico, Miharu and Rinka, and Odette and Alan. 2 versus 2 versus 1. Miharu's goal is to obscure Rinka's participation. Taking both on at the same time seems like a recipe for disaster. I could tell you his cause of death right now, but you still have no leads on his regret, correct? I went through all the public statements and interviews with him thus far, but it's as you say. I've been looking into his personal life, but right now, all I've got is information about his family. His family? His mother died of an illness when he was young, and his father was murdered when he was 16. It's kind of a big deal. Murdered? How'd that happen? His father was running a small jewelry business on his own. He'd buy up ore from the mines within India and sell it off to the manufacturing companies themselves. I'm not sure if the money is what changed him or not, but he started to get greedy at some point. Started to loan money out to those who wanted it. Well, moneylenders aren't exactly the nicest people in the world. It's easier to say he got a loan shark more than anyone else. That's how bad it got. So basically someone with a grudge smoked him. It's his own fault for getting done in then. Federico's claim held extra weight because he had done the same work as Alan's father during his days in the mafia. Scale shrugs in agreement. Well then, Miharu was able to establish a link between this information and the cause of death she is privy to. Alan exploits and using his father's connections after that to build up his company and make a fortune, all while in his teens, are pretty well known. Speaking of his family, Speaking of his family, he currently has 4 younger brothers and 1 sister. His income is what's supporting them, it seems. Wouldn't that make his family his regret then? I figured that myself, but no dice. That's all I have, intel-wise. I already tried stuff related to his business and fortune, but no. You're all I got, man. His family definitely seems suspect. I won't promise anything myself, but I've already got a butt on the case. He'll get a hefty reward out of it, so I can't see him not coming through. One of your buds, huh? Oops, can't risk revealing my own information here. Think of him as a journalist of sorts. Miharu nods her head once again. I guess I'll be keeping his cause of death to myself for now. Huh? Why is that? My position's so different from Rinka's and the other group. You can cut me off with ease once you think I've outlived my usefulness. Haha, only natural to think that. Fine with you keeping it to yourself, well, until we uncover his regret. Makes it easier to proceed, knowing we don't need to worry about his cause of death. Guess we too gotta put in the work then. I'm aware. You're going after her dead, aren't you? Must be tough going up against a former comrade. You sure know how to piss off people, don't you? Not as bad as her dead, though. Anyway, I've already figured out her cause of death. Really? When did you manage that? Last night, something came to mind when I was looking at my wounds. That's a hint. Can't spill the details since I'm related to my own info, but both of us were in the same place when we died. That's... She had a big wound on her stomach back then. As you saw, that wound was gone when divine selection kicked off. Easy to assume that was her cause of death. Federico took a card from his book, allowing both to glance at it. Contents read as follows. Enroll 11. Blood loss. Miharu and Scale are unable to obtain the card themselves, however. Both understand that this is due to their lack of knowledge as to how that came to pass. I'd rather amazed you forgot about that until now. Shut it! Hard to remember the important stuff when you're stuck around that beast all the time. You were both at the same place when you died? Wouldn't it be safe to assume she knows your cause of death as well? Yep, I figured that much. I guarantee you she doesn't know my regret, though. Wouldn't make sense if she did, but opted not to elect me during the last election after I stabbed her in the back. That makes sense. More importantly, you said you've got a lead on her regret, right? I recall you saying that too. Federico has a good chance of electing her at this rate. Would you mind revealing that info to us? Do keep in mind, I only mentioned having a lead. I don't have a solid idea of what it is. This is probably the best time to reveal it, so I'll go ahead and do so, if you're fine with that. Fairly sure, it's related to the concept of her child. Miharu makes sure to explain her reasoning. Sophia served as a trigger for this line of thought. Odette granted her the opportunity to see the world for herself. She never had to do such a thing. She simply could have forced the information out of Sophia then and there. The risk of Sophia revealing her information did exist, but Odette could have handled that in a number of ways. Said she chose the most inefficient, yet compassionate route. Sophia trusted in that decision of hers, too. Miharu is aware that Sophia was wise beyond her years. She wouldn't have believed Odette so readily. It would have been normal to assume Odette would break her promise immediately. That was a part of the puzzle that just didn't fit, the one that led Miharu to a certain theory. Sophia understood that Odette was being compassionate, not by instinct, but because she knew Odette's regret. Pretty sure I mentioned before that she's the type to act based on emotions, not logic. She'd turn down or accept work based on them. That's quite the interesting theory, though not quite enough to make the card appear just yet. It's mostly based on circumstantial evidence. What I'm about to say now is my own conjecture. Odette's the type to not let others decide how she lives her life. Isn't that right, Federico? You ain't gonna find many people who refuse to take orders the way she does. Federico gives a clear answer and a deep nod. Scale rests his chin on his hand. He seems to follow Miharu's implication. When he catches Miharu's gaze, he offers his own thoughts. She's unmarried and has no children, as far as I know. Assuming a child is linked to her regret, then it might be a case of her not being able to give birth. Perhaps due to physical complications. However, no card manifests from his conjecture. Scale remains convinced that they are on the right track, regardless. We're missing something, but I'm pretty confident this is a good lead to follow. Alright, I'll have someone dig up Odette's clinical records. Should be fine to stick purely to maternity and gynecological exams. That settles things then. I'll be going now, so get in contact when you find something out. As I said before, I'd rather avoid coming here too often. Wait. I don't mind if we go somewhere else, so how about we keep hanging out? Ain't no problem if we leave in the morning. You're a scumbag, you know that? Mara shoots Federico an icy glare before leaving. She has no idea that both of these men wind up drinking till morning. Oh, goodness. Anyways, Naomi is alive. This was a good one. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you're enjoying all of this series. Let me know your thoughts on what all is Odette's regret. I'm very interested in your thoughts on that one. And with this, I think we're going to leave it here. Alright. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye!